right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Say Less Basketball podcast. You are currently listening to episode 23. Hope you're doing well wherever and whenever you're listening to this.
Goats number.
Yep, facts. Everybody's gonna say that, but happy July 4th weekend. Hope everybody's doing well during this holiday weekend. It's a 3-day weekend for most people, but we're gonna be talking about the conference finals, how they wrapped up, and then previews for and predictions for the NBA finals on ESPN. So that's the topics this week. It's gonna be an interesting series. And I guess first off, I can go first too. The Suns obviously made it over the Clippers. Obviously, the Suns have had battled with teams this whole postseason that have had injuries, but I'm going to give them the respect that they deserve. They've been able to get through in every path. There's always you have to have the right path. You have to have luck. You have to have skill, and they've displayed that. And that's what it takes to win an NBA championship. And you have to have the right path. So I give respect to the Suns. I give respect to Devin Booker. Ayton has played well the whole time, and Booker I think has stepped up as well, even with the games with the mask on too. But I think CP3 is also grouped together and helped this lead, and I give credit to the head coach as well. But CP3 has finally made the finals, so that's really interesting. We'll see how it pans out. But he's obviously one of the reasons this team has been so good and such a nice staple. And then Jay Crowder has also made a bunch of finals too. I think he has more finals appearances than anyone else combined, playing on the Suns or the Bucks. And then so I give them respect, and I think they can give the Bucks a decent series. And then the Bucks obviously just had that crazy series against the Nets, and then ended up beating the Hawks out despite the injuries to Trae Young and Giannis. But Chris Middleton stepped up big time, and he went out. He went nuclear these last couple of games with Giannis out. So I give respect to them too. Personally, if Giannis comes back, predictions I have I'm saying Bucks in 7. I think it's gonna be a great series. I'm looking forward to it. I really want to see. It's just a great battle that I'm looking forward to. That's my opinion. That's what I think.
You're beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, for Suns and Clippers series, Game 6, I really thought the Clippers would pull it off, especially with the way they started. Beverly was going off. Morris was continuing his form.
Yeah.
Paul George wasn't, scoring a lot, but he was rebounding, defending, passing the ball well. It was a close game first half, and then second half came through, and Chris Paul decided to, turn back the clock for 10 years or so, scored 31 points, put them away. So it was, they had me for a second, but I thought they were going to force a Game 7 just because Chris Paul and Devin Booker were playing okay, but they weren't, playing good enough to carry the Suns to win. Paul George, I was kind of disappointed. 21 points. I know he kept up his 20 points plus streak, but I thought he at least, looked like he cared more. But I guess it was just the fatigue, if I want to say that, because he has been performing well throughout the whole playoffs. Fatigue catched up to him, so that sucks. But yeah, congrats to the Suns, even though I think it's a fluke run they're having right now. But, good for them.
All right.
Eva's moving back into her apartment, so I have to deal with that. After this, I want to talk about Pat-Bev, the Chris Paul Pat-Bev tweet and stuff. Mm-hmm. But just in terms of the series, I said last episode, and I jokingly said in our chat that the Clippers were going to win because they had Ty Lue, and Ty Lue comes back from 3-1. I didn't really think they had a chance.
No.
Just because, and I knew Kawhi wasn't coming back. I'm sorry. I don't know why people thought he was coming back. I've talked to so many people that thought he was going to come back. I'm like, you know Kawhi's history. He doesn't play with an injury at all. To me, I don't like that about him, but I mean, you live with the results because he's that good. But personally, I would play. But then again, like I said many times before, Skip Bayless says he has an in with Kawhi's camp. He says it's an ACL injury. So we'll see. That remains to be seen. But in terms of the series, the Suns are just a better team. And it really showed because, like you said, Mohammed, Chris Paul and Devin Booker really weren't great for the most part in the series together. And they still won the series. The Clippers kind of, I think, just ran out of gas in game 5 that they had, that Paul George had that miraculous game. Was that game 5?
That was game 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think they just ran out of gas there. I think that was it. Because they'd had 2 7-game series beforehand. Mm-hmm. No Kawhi. And the one game, I mean, they weren't hitting their shots this series. It was just it was a pretty gruesome series in terms of like offense. It was not great. But obviously Chris Paul pulled something out of his bag that I don't think anybody saw coming. I certainly didn't. I love it for him. I'm so happy he's in the finals. This is the finals I wanted. When the playoffs started, this was exactly what I would have loved the finals to be. It's not what I thought would happen, but like you said, Zach, injuries happen. All right, that's a part of every playoffs. Yes, this year has been a little bit more than usual, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, and you still got to win the games. All right, and the Suns won the games, so
there's been plenty of times where the other team has had injuries and.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like the Suns haven't dealt with injuries too. Chris Paul has had injury. He's been out with COVID or a shoulder. We found out he had a dislocated, or he has like a torn ligament in his wrist. I don't know too much about that, but I would imagine if you're shooting the ball, that's going to affect you quite a bit. So congrats to the Suns. I'm so happy about this. It's amazing that they went from not making the playoffs last year to now in the finals. I'm so happy.
They're a well-rounded team. Yeah,
they are. They're a well-rounded team. Cameron Payne, he didn't have this with the Thunder, really, it seemed, but he's like, I think Cameron Payne's a huge part of their offense, huge part of their team. Yeah. Devin Booker, I mean, he hasn't been sensational, but really it comes down to Chris Paul and his leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, and you guys listen to like DeAndre Ayton's interviews, Mike Bridges, like what they say about CP3.
Right. Yeah.
He's just a great leader for those young guys. He knows how to, he may be harsh, as they say, but if you listen to what he says, instead of just worrying about his tone, you learn a lot. And he's finally broken through. And I'm so happy for him.
I'm so happy. Yeah. I'm proud of him. Yeah. He's really showed up, and they were FaceTiming him after all the games he missed in the beginning too, and they got it done, and they got the wins that they needed too. And it just shows, you can have like a superstar like CP3 show up to a team like this and just, do his part and, just kind of slag off or, not be the best version of himself just because he's not happy with where he is. But he proved again, because he's been on a lot of teams these last couple of years, and he still manages to come in and fit in and help them win. And that's a credit to his leadership skills, his personality, the way he plays. It's very impactful. And everybody doubted him, I think, before with the 3-1 leads with the Clippers and stuff like that. But I mean, time in and time out, these last couple of years, it's proven that he is not the problem. Especially on some of those Rockets teams. A lot of people thought, CP3's washed. His leadership, he's too harsh. It's not going to happen. And now that he's off that team, and not playing with certain players or head coaches, then he is now leading and helping the Suns win. So it's really inspiring, I think, for CP3.
I want to say one more thing, because Are you guys CP3 fans? I can't remember.
To,
I don't know.
I used to not like him. Obviously, when he was on the Rockets playing against the Warriors, I wanted Steph and the Warriors to win, obviously. But
Muhammad, you?
I've always respected him.
I mean, not really. I mean, I've always given credit to his leadership, but that was it. I haven't really been a big
I'm
fan
not a
of him.
fan of CP3. I honestly think his flopping is a little ridiculous.
I would say so, yeah.
And I do think he is a bit of an interrogator on the court, which we'll get to in a second. But in terms of this series, if they had lost this series, it would have. I know his resume was great, and like he just needed to get to the finals and hopefully win it to like really put it over the top. But I can't imagine how detrimented it would have been if they had lost this series after winning the first 2 games pretty soundly. Well, no, not soundly, because they won the 1 game off
that was a big
game winning. Yeah, but they won the first 2 games, and then he comes back and they look really bad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play particularly well. I feel like it could have really, really killed his legacy. So for that reason, I think that game 6, I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree that's his best game ever.
That's fine. Yeah,
greatest game ever.
You could say
for
that,
him. Are you talking about for him?
Yeah.
I'm just saying greatest game ever, not his best performance. Just in terms of like what was on the line. That was.
I got you.
Because I mean, I guess you could argue like some game 7s would have been more important for the Rockets or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the injury thing real quick because everybody brings it up, everybody uses it as an excuse, but it's a part of the game. It's just as much as part of a game as missing a shot, or saying what if he had hit that shot, or what if that had happened instead. What if they made the adjustment? What if they made better adjustments at halftime? It's the same thing. What if he had played in the game? What if he wasn't injured? It's the same what if scenario wherever you look at it. And it's a part of the game. I hate when they say, "Well, what if they wouldn't have won if if they had him, or if they had AD, or if they had LeBron, or whatever." Okay, they might have, but the fact of the matter is they did not, and people have to accept that fact and stop thinking about, "Oh, what if that had happened this way, or what if it had done this way, or if they were all healthy." And then I just don't like that sentiment and that mindset. I think you have to try and get it done regardless and give respect to the opponent. It's just a good competitive nature, and it's what drives this league, I think. So,
yeah, because it's
I've always been like adamant about this whole injury excuse thing, but it's part of the game, and
it takes away from their accomplishments.
Right.
And I am one of those people that, like I've always said on this podcast, and he's ridiculing me for it. Those Suns were the worst 2 seeds ever. And it wasn't based on what I thought. It was based on data and analytics. Like that's what the data was saying. The analytics were saying. The odds makers were saying. But they still have made the finals. The Bucks have still made the finals.
Right.
I could say the same thing about the Raptors. Does anybody think the Raptors would have won against the Warriors if KD and Clay are there? I don't know if anybody would say that confidently, but they still won a championship. It happens. It's not like it counts for less. We're not going to pull a Nick Wright thing like Brady said. LeBron's rings count as 2 rings.
You guys certainly count the first Steph ring for less, but
I mean, we're just making a valid point when you say, when you make your arguments for Steph being.
I'm just saying he got
ungodly. He's the top 2-point guard ever.
Okay. That's not a weird take. That's facts.
No,
that's widely accepted. That's widely accepted. It is.
Oh my God. We'll just have to roll the tape.
Okay, but
I know Mohammed's over there having a stroke.
Mohammed's done. But let's talk about this. I want to talk about this Pat Bev and CP3 incident because it was a big storyline. It was a big shove, and Pat Bev got banned banned for a game due to the conduct, which is, I guess they had to do something. But do you guys think he should have gotten banned more? Some people say that CP3 deserved it. I don't think something like that is ever deserved personally, but do you think? And then Pat Bev obviously apologized after and said it wasn't meant towards CP3. You know, who just taking his own shot because that's his personality. But you guys think, and then Jay Crowder, I think, also said that he knew that it was over when Pat Bev got ejected because it was just, you know, flaring of emotions and frustration that they couldn't get it done. So you guys think that he should have gotten banned more? Do you think he should have gotten banned more games? Or do you just think this is just a normal Beverly play that just happens every once in a while? What do you guys think?
I don't like the word banned. It sounds weird. Suspended.
Suspended.
Banned just reminds me of like Donald Sterling, you know?
Yeah, suspended for one game.
I personally think he should have got suspended for more.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big shove, yeah.
I feel like people have gotten suspended for more for a lot less than that.
That's true, yeah. Because I watched it. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't really think it was that big of a deal. You know, they were going at each other the whole game, so I mean, it was bound to happen. I think if you sucker punched him or something worse, you know, I think, you know, it deserves multiple games suspension, but he just pushed him, and with Chris Paul flopping, kind of remind me of the whole Najee Muhammad, LeBron James push. LeBron shouldn't have gone down that easy or that hard, but he did. And with how Chris Paul is, I felt like he did go down, you know, a little dramatically. But I don't know. I think the league's soft these days, especially with that situation. It was just a push. It wasn't a punch. If it was a punch or something else, then I understand. But he just pushed him. And you know, if he really wanted to like actually hurt him, he would have done something else. But it was just a push. And you know, if you want to suspend him for a game, I understand. But I don't think it's that much big of a deal.
I think it was. I think, first of all, I do think Chris Paul instigated it. All right. I just don't believe that Pat Bev just pushed him for no reason. Because Chris Paul is like one of those people that will just whisper under his breath. Like,
he is an instigator.
Trash, bro. He can't guard me. I'm dropping 41 on his ass, bro. What's up, bro? What? He be that kind of dude. But the reason that I think it was a big deal was because it wasn't in game. I'd almost have said it was better in game than in going into a timeout because of the fact that you're not prepared for it even a little bit. So if somehow he had fallen in an awkward way, whether it be flopping or not, and he hurt himself, which we have seen happen, it would change things dramatically. So I do think if it just had happened in game, it would be like less of a deal because its emotions are flaring. It's Patrick Beverly. He does this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if I call Pat Bev dirty, but he does some things that are like, if the line's here, he's like right below it. He is as close to the line as you can be. Think back to Russell Westbrook. That to me was blatant. Like, so it's not.
Yeah.
Can't defend it. So I do think he should have gotten more for that reason. But that's just my personal kind of opinion. I do understand the league is soft, which is kind of why I was surprised he only got one game.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be like a huge deal.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to talk about the apology because besides the shove, the apology is hilarious. Is it not just like the funniest thing in the world to you guys? So what he tweeted, like what is his exact tweet? He said stuff like good luck for you, wasn't meant for you. Shoot, where's the freaking tweet?
Yeah, it's in the mentions, not in his actual tweets, right? It's weird.
Yeah, at CP3 emotions got the best of me, which I believe that's true.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You can't let this happen. This is ridiculous. In a timeout. Got the best of me last night, gang. My bad. Wasn't meant for you. Congrats on making it to the finals. Best of luck. Wasn't meant for you. And I every like debate show I've watched, Skip and Shannon, Nick Wright, Brandon, you know, First Things First Take, Undisputed. I watch all of them, and they all are like, well, who was it meant for? Did you just mistake?
That's true.
What's his face? Why am I blanking? Not Chris Paul. This is a tall white dude on their team.
Saric.
Dario Saric or
Kaminsky.
Did you just mistake Chris Paul for those two? Like, what does that mean, dude? I thought that was hilarious. How he's just like, wasn't meant for you. That doesn't mean anything. That's not an apology.
Confuse CP3 for Rondo.
Yeah, like he didn't apologize, in my opinion, which is what I would have expected from Beverly. I don't think he would apologize for this. He doesn't mean that to me. I think he's.
It's just a
like, bro. I think he thinks CP3 soft. Honestly, that's what I think.
I don't know. Yeah, but Beverly.
I just thought that part was so funny.
Obviously always get the best of Beverly, I think.
Well, you can't let you can't let people get under your skin like that, because I think CP3 got under his skin.
Yeah, definitely.
You got to be more controlled, especially when you're Beverly with the history you have. Because like, even if this incident wasn't a big deal, like Mohammed, you said, his history played a part in this. This would be like Draymond Green kicking somebody in the nuts again. Well, Draymond's going to get suspended for like 5 games for that. Right. But if some random person does it, they're not going to think anything of it, because that's what Draymond does. Well, Beverly kind of does this stuff. You know, he hurt. Didn't he hurt? He broke Devin Booker's nose in the beginning of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was an accident because they were just fighting.
Well, yeah, but I know that. But I'm saying Beverly's reputation makes accidents
look
purposeful.
Yeah, I got you. That's true.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't hate him for it though. I love Beverly. I think he's awesome.
A lot of people are bringing back up the quote he said to Steph in 2019. You had the last 5 years, and next 5 years are mine. And they're roasting him. You know,
he's out of his mind. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Different avenue. Where do you guys think Kawhi Leonard stays?
I think he does. I mean, he's not at full. They haven't really been. So they had the bubble, which you can make excuses that, you know, they weren't at full strength then, and it was just under different circumstances. And then obviously he was injured this season. So I think, even though he's a free agent, I think he will end up resigning, because if they got this close this year without Kawhi, I think they can certainly try their best and get back to this point next year with Kawhi. So I think he will resign and run it back, just because it's unfinished business. You never know with these kind of things though, because there was that thing with Patrick Beverly, and not Patrick Beverly, Russell Westbrook and Paul George, and they were like, unfinished business, I'm re-signing with the Thunder, and then, you know, eventually they both got traded away. But I think Kawhi does stay, yeah.
Well, I don't think he'll get traded. If anybody gets traded from the team is PG.
Yeah, but I don't know where he would go besides the Clippers. I mean, I guess he could go back to the Raptors, but I mean, I don't know where he would go. They just have like a good spot for Kawhi, and I think, I don't know, they kind of built this thing around him. So I don't think he's gonna leave though. I don't know where he would go.
Mohammed?
I think he stays.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because he won a championship with the Raptors. And any regular athlete would, you know, want to run it back and see if they could go back to back, but he wanted to go home.
Yeah.
So if he left the whole championship team just to come home and play for the Clippers, I don't see a reason why he would want to leave home.
Right.
After what just happened in the bubble, and then what happened this year, he had a good chance to go to the finals and take the Clippers to the finals, but he obviously got hurt. So I think he stays. They have a good coach with Ty Lue. I think, you know, with Doc Rivers, obviously they had problems. Him and Paul George did. Montrezl Harrell was having some beef, and not a lot of guys, you know, kind of believed in Doc. But I feel like after what happened this year, I got a lot of guys believe in Ty Lue. So I think he stays. He's eligible for a Supermax. So I know Kawhi's not about money, but, you know, that's probably one thing that convinced him to stay. But yeah, I think he'll be straight.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit about money.
I don't know.
I just kind of. So I do think he should stay. Part of me doesn't know if he will because from the rumors I've read, from what I've heard, the issues with the medical staff, we've been down this road before. Just in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe he might just dip out because he'll get pissed that they're saying, hey, you're fine to go. And he's like, no, I'm not. Basically exactly what happened with the Spurs.
Yeah.
But, it's so hard because nobody knows what's going on with Kawhi ever. True. This man could literally, I don't know, he could have broken his femur and nobody would have any idea. And they could be saying, oh, he has a bone bruise on his ankle. What? But I do think he should stay. However, the Clippers better hope this man stays, all right? Because the Clippers pulled a Cavaliers / Heat / Lakers. And by that, I mean, whenever they get LeBron, you just clean house and you make sure you pay the heck out of players that they want on their team to help keep that LeBron there. The Clippers did that. I don't think they have a first-round pick till 2027, which is ridiculous. Their own first-round pick. So they might have some other ones in there. Also, they have no money at all. None. Not a dime, unless they want to go in the luxury tax. So safe to say they're not going to keep Reggie. There's no way. There's no way. So I just saw some other scenarios because they got to – I still think they need to kind of beef up their roster a little, maybe like rearrange some pieces.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard Chris Broussard throw out this, and that is getting rid of Paul George for somebody that is a little more consistent in the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about the PG playoff slender, especially after this. I think he was very consistent this season. I think he played really well and helped them almost get to they almost got to the finals without Kawhi. That's unreal.
But would you say that Paul George was the main reason for that?
No, but he certainly came up to the standards and played really well. I know there's a 21-point game performance in the last game. But there is also that sentiment that they obviously wouldn't have gotten Kawhi if they hadn't traded away SGA. But then they traded away anyway, and now it looks bad because SGA, and then there's all those first-round picks, and Paul George isn't really, he hasn't lived up to that in the bubble, but he has lived up to it now. But now they have injured Kawhi as well, and it's tough because, we were talking about this earlier, because this is the year because the Nets had injuries and were down, and the Lakers had injuries and they were down, and looking forward into the future, those two teams will probably be the favorites next year if they are healthy, because those are both really good super teams. So this just sucks for the Clippers because you finally get Paul George consistent. You finally have him living up to the standards that you set, even though after the trade, he finally, steps above the slander in the playoffs, but then Kawhi's out. So I don't know if they can get it done. I don't know. That's their main issue is injuries, I think, because they proved that they can have good chemistry and be consistent and win close games and big games because they won both. They had 2 Game 7 series they battled and won both of them, and then they took this Suns team to these 6-game series and battled back even with CP3 there. So they have the courage and the stuff to get there. It's just going to depend on injuries. And see how they will battle like teams with like the Lakers next year too. But it's tough, man. I don't know if they can get rid of Paul George. It's the same thing with kind of with the same situation kind of with Ben Simmons. I know Ben Simmons was way worse this season, but you have so much with Ben and Joel Embiid. It's just the same thing with Paul George and Kawhi. They work so well together. They've been in the process. They've the same process kind of with together as well, and they just feel like a camaraderie and consistency, and on that team. So I don't think they're going to trade him away. I don't think they should either. But you never know. They might just That would be crazy if they found a good deal for PG, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think my issue with that is I don't really know why there's a narrative behind Paul George being terrible in the playoffs, because pretty much outside of the Thunder, the 1 year in the Thunder,
it's because of the
bubble. Sure, he was really good in the playoffs.
He was bad in the bubble last year.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Those 2 years, I guess, since he left that, because he was really good. I guess since he left the Pacers, when he was on the Pacers, he was pretty good from what I remember. He was really good in the playoffs. I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly, but those are my thoughts. I don't think they should get rid of him. Personally, sure, yeah. I think the issue doesn't lie with those two. All right, because Paul George is not going to be your main guy. First of all, right. We all agree that this year, if they have won the finals this year, while injuries are a part of the game, we would all be able to admit, hey, they got really fortunate this year, and that helped. Because I don't think that they can win a finals without Kawhi being their main guy.
Right.
If the playoffs were to work out with, like, you think Brooklyn or Philly or obviously the Bucks coming out of the East but healthy.
Yep.
So I don't think Paul George is the big issue here. But Mohammed, do you think he's gone or no?
I personally don't want him to get traded, but if they do it, I don't understand why. If they could get somebody better to team up with Kawhi, the problem is Kawhi kind of like requested him personally.
Right.
Because when he first signed with Clippers, he's like, I'm not going to sign unless you guys get me Paul George, or I forgot he said somebody else, but he wanted Paul George. So if they were to
trade him, Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, I think it was Jimmy Butler. So, if they can get somebody better, then sure, go ahead. But I think him and Kawhi are fine.
Yeah.
Paul George, the whole playoff thing, I think just started because of him nicknaming himself Playoff P.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you ever give yourself a nickname and you don't live up to it, I think people are going to slander for you forever about it. But I think he squashed that this year. But we'll have to see, because if Kawhi, I think it comes down to Kawhi if he wants him to get traded or not. But I don't think so after what happened this year.
Yeah.
Clippers are an interesting team this offseason.
For sure.
Maybe the most interesting.
Yeah, the whole Dame situation, I think, is like the whole centerpiece, with all the trading and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if they give up Paul George and a couple other pieces for Dame, I mean, they could do that.
That would be wild.
Dame and Kawhi would be a good pair.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
You'd lose a little bit defensively.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know about this time, bro.
What time it is.
Yeah.
What time it is. We know what time it is.
Yeah.
Not Steph time, is Dame time.
Oh boy, here we go. Bringing Steph up again, huh?
I was just trying to, relive that
moment. And whatever.
From our earlier episode.
Yeah.
I roasted you.
But that's interesting. One of the more interesting storylines right there with the Clippers. But we haven't talked about the Bucks a lot yet. So Bucks-Hawks series, also a lot of injuries on that side as well. It was a really good series in the beginning, and then Trey and Giannis both went down with injuries and were out games. But credit to the Hawks, man. I mean, holy cow! Because a lot of people predicted them not even make the playoffs this year, and then they really came together as a full squad and proved just how overall depth they are. And I know that, and Trae Young deserves his respect, because that man averaged like 30 points per game this playoffs, and then like 11 assists too, I think. And he just destroyed. He just had a great postseason, and he really like stepped up and became like a household name, with the New York and the New York crowds. That series was awesome. There's a lot of great moments and storylines and highlights from that. A lot of the great reactions that he had with the shaking off after he got bumped, and then laughing at the fans yelling at him too. That's awesome. You love to see that. That was a great series and great moments for him too. And then they really battled against the Bucks too, and they beat the Sixers too. I can't believe they beat the Sixers. And he was just shooting really well that series, and I don't know how they couldn't stop him consistently. He couldn't get that job done, and then he obviously went down with an injury in the Bucks series, but he played really well through that series too, and he surprised a lot of people. I think the Hawks will surprise a lot of people next season, just like they did this season. I think they'll only continue to get better because they have such a young core, with Collins, and Trey, and Cam Reddish too, I think. So they just have this, and Kevin Huerter too. So I think the sky is the limit with this Hawks team. I think they'll get better next season too. I can't wait to see what's in store for Trae Young. But also give credit to Giannis, give credit to Middleton. Middleton also was a target of slander last season too. Choked pretty heavily in the playoffs, but he lived up to the potential just like PG. These last couple of games, he had that crazy fourth quarter, that one game, and they won. And he just played lights out and helped close the series out for the Bucks. So I think they played really well this postseason so far, and they've also surprised a lot of people because a lot of people would write them off after the previous failures, but they really got it done with Drew Holiday too. And it sucks for Eric Bledsoe because the man was on the Suns and the Bucks, and now he's on the Pelicans and didn't make the playoffs. So, but I'm ranting a lot tonight. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Well, first with the Hawks, big credit to them for what they did to the Knicks because not a lot of people expected them to gentlemen sweep them, which was crazy to me. Julius Randle is just a nobody that series. And then their big win against the Sixers. Even though I felt like the Sixers choked that series, credit to them for taking advantage of the Sixers' mishaps and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And coming into the Bucks, I really thought they would get beat in 5, but for them to take it 6 games, and after Game 5, I really thought they were going to take it to Game 7 because when Giannis went down, I'm like, okay, I think Trae Young might be back Game 5, Game 6, but he will for sure be back this series. And I really thought they would win Game 6 and then force the Bucks to have Giannis come back Game 7 because there were reports that are saying that if there was a Game 7, Giannis would have came back. So me personally, I think if they really want to keep up this success and come back to the conference finals and have a chance to go to the finals in the coming years, they need to get a second start at Trae Young. I know John Collins and Bogdan and Kevin Huerter and Capella, they're all good players, but I feel like they're all good role players. I think if they really want to compete with the Sixers, with the Nets, with the Bucks for the next couple of years, and the Bulls, because the Bulls are on the come up too. Bulls got next, by the way.
Facts.
They're going to have to get Trae Young another franchise superstar to pair with them because that seems like the way to go these days. But, yeah, I mean, good for them, man. I'm happy for them. For the Bucks, they did what they're supposed to do. They did what they're supposed to be doing the past 3 years, which is competing to get to the finals. They did have some luck this year, but I guess everybody did with the injuries. Shout out to Middleton, man.
Yeah.
Clutch third quarters in this series, man, for real.
Yeah.
He surprised me. Him and Brook Lopez and Drew Holiday.
True.
Because the one blatant thing that they needed to do was to obviously step up their games. And me and a lot of people didn't have confidence in that. So for them to, drop 25 and 9 for Drew and 30 points for Middleton and 30 points for Lopez all in one game, that's just crazy. But hopefully Giannis comes back. I don't know how long his injury is, but I don't think they'll win the finals with Giannis out. But if he does come back, I feel like it'd be a 7-game series. But for right now, shout out to the Bucks.
True.
Yeah, I said the Bucks are sweeping whoever they play in the finals. That's asinine. There's no way. Because honestly,
Yeah.
The Bucks don't look crazy great to me in terms of like being better than the Suns.
Yeah.
Even with Giannis on the court. Now, without him on the court, it kind of looked like they remembered how to play basketball. It seems like, I don't know what it is. Either Bud knows how to coach and he just likes hiding it with Giannis, or the rest of the players were like, you know what, our coach is an idiot. We can do this ourselves. Right. I don't know. But they looked like they knew how to play basketball without Giannis on the court.
Yeah.
And and that's a credit to the team.
Yeah.
But the Hawks are on the up and up, and I think Kenny and Charles, and Shaq on the TNT, NBA TNT, they all said, there are some teams that everybody doesn't think is like legit or are like legit.
Right.
Because they have like one great year, right?
Right.
You find out the next few years if they were legit then. So like we'll find out in the next 2-3 years if the Hawks are actually like if this year was legit, because it could have just been that they did get lucky. It could be that, but it could be they are seriously that good. But let's just face it, they need somebody else. Like you said, Mohammed, there's no way. I would be shocked if Trae Young could carry a team all the way to the final. I mean, I just don't, it doesn't happen these days. It just doesn't. Yeah. I know the last person to do it is LeBron, and the East was pathetic at that point. The East is too good now. You can't have one guy like that.
Yeah. Especially against the Nets and stuff and the Bucks.
Yeah, especially with the Nets now. I mean,
yeah.
There wasn't even a team like as good as the Bucks back when LeBron was doing this. So but the Bucks, here's the thing. They had to win this series, right? Because I don't even think it should have gone 6. I don't think, definitely not 7, all right? Because even without Giannis, we can make the argument they have 3 of the next 4 best players, 3 of the top 4 players in the series without Giannis on the court. With Giannis on the court, they definitely have 3 of the top 4 players. But without him, you could still make that argument. So it's like there's no excuse. Trae Young was, even when he played, he was not healthy. Like you could see, he was basically playing on one leg.
So, game 6 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kudos to him. I give him credit for that, for trying to play through the injury. I hope he didn't hurt it anymore. But I give him, he has my respect for coming out and like just trying. Yeah. He didn't really help their cause per se. He didn't exactly hurt them. Really what hurt them was Middleton deciding that he wanted to play like his $180 million contract or whatever.
Like Michael Jordan.
And scoring 23 points in one quarter, which is honestly historic.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for the Bucks. Obviously, as somebody who predicted they go to the finals the past 2 years, and I predicted them to, I don't know if I predicted them to go to the finals this year. Probably said the Nets, but I'm happy about it. However, I will say right now, if Giannis does not play, I do not want the Bucks to win the finals. As a Giannis fan, it would look horrible if they won the finals without him. It would just crush.
That's true. Yeah.
It would crush me. It would crush him.
Yeah.
So I hope he can come back. That injury to me, I don't know how it was only a hyperextended knee. I mean, to me, that looked like a season-ending injury, in my opinion. Sure. Like with his size coming down on the leg like that, maybe he's just built different. He might be. He probably is.
He might be.
But I was super worried about that. I don't know if I have faith in the Bucks without Giannis to be able to like step up against the Suns, but I'm going to just be real and say anybody listening should probably ignore everything I say about predictions, because I think I've been wrong about virtually every series. So pulling like a Stephen A or something. This has just been a weird playoffs. But I do want to get a little bit off topic, because we were talking about the Sixers and we talked about this in our chat. What did you guys think of that Malcolm Brogdon offer?
Right, that's a good question. Yeah, Will, we were talking about this in the group chat, off the record, off the podcast, but I think it was they offered Brogdon and a first round pick for Simmons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And honestly, yeah, we were talking about how I think the Sixers are viewing him too high, and everybody else is viewing him too low, which is, due process, because I mean, he did not play well this place in the playoffs. And even though he's valued, I think, lower right now than he should be, that's just the way it goes, and that's how you get good deals and good offers. It's the same thing with trades. Somebody has a bet, you buy low, sell high. It's like that. It's just like stocks. So you should be buying low on Simmons, and that's what. But the Sixers don't want to give him up, and I don't know why they don't do this trade and help him out, because that could have been great for them. Brogdon is a consistent scorer on the Pacers. He's been a nice, consistent player and a good all around player for many years. I don't know if this Simmons trade is going to happen, because if they value him too high and everyone else is valuing him too low, they're not going to get anything. They're not going to get shit done. So I don't know what. It's hilarious to me. I hope that eventually Philly will come to their senses and realize that they have to trade him away. And a lot of teams are going to get. And you're not going to get great offers for him, because those times have passed, and the times of being able to have Simmons valued at the same thing for, like a package like James Harden, or trying to keep somebody else, or trying to keep Jimmy. Those days are well over now, and you have to face the facts, and you have to sell him low, because that's what people are buying him right now. So, I don't know. It's Philly's in some deep shit right now, because they had time after time. They've lost. I saw an article the other day too. They have lost with injuries. They've lost health. They've lost healthy. They've lost to the 1 seed, underdogs as the favorites. So they've lost every way they can so far. And if they don't do something and make a big move, I don't see how more success and what they want, ultimately a championship, can happen.
To me, how I look at this is, if I were trading for Ben Simmons, I would look at his potential, because he's still only 24. And I understand his recent playoff performance was atrocious, and it's put his trade value really low. But at the same time, as much as I dislike him, he's still a really good player. He's still a really good defensive player.
Yeah.
He still is a good passer. He can still a good finisher. Yeah. His shooting is a problem. So as long as you can fix something that's not as hard as, I know it's, you can't turn him to Steph Curry by next season, but still, like, if you can just, turn him to a decent shooter, where he can at least throw floaters, do a little step back at the mid range, just something,
and not get taken out of the game for free throws, right?
Yeah, he'll be a borderline top 10 player in the league for sure, at least a top 5 point guard if you want to classify him as that.
Right.
Yeah, if he could just fix even just the free throws would
be enough. Too, yeah,
right.
Exactly. Just shooting in general. If you just make him a decent shooter where people respect him enough to not guard him, by the restricted area while he's standing at the 3-point line, then you'll be straight. So if I was a Sixers, I would have declined this Brogdon trade, because Brogdon's 31, okay, and he's not the same level as Ben Simmons. He's probably a CJ McCollum type trade, not a Ben Simmons. So if I was a Sixers, I would still value him pretty high. So.
You're right. That's a good point.
I think if I was a Sixers, I'd try my hardest to trade him for Dame Lillard. If they want to get rid of him, try to get Dame Lillard, because I think he's a perfect fit for Joel Embiid. Yeah. I've always said this, and I know Stephen A. and all those talk shows always talk about this. If you want to, have success, I think you should have traded at least Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons at some point. Because me personally, I don't think they're a good fit. I think that's why their playoff, success hasn't been up to par. So if it's Ben Simmons, after what happened recently, they're going ahead. I know Doc Rivers said, hey, we're going to work on his game this summer. We'll make sure he does some work in the offseason. And so he said himself he's going to work on himself on the offseason. If you believe that, Daryl Morey Elton Brand, then go ahead. Don't trade him. Trust him. If you don't believe that, then go ahead and trade him. But if you're going to trade him, you better get at least a top 15 player for him.
That's
something, because he's still a pretty young man. He has the potential to be a top 5 player in the league for a long time. So just, just keep that in mind.
That's true, yeah. I mean, he's multiple-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year finalist this year as well. So, I mean, he has a very good resume. So that's a good point, Mohammed. So yeah, they should try and get that. Would be crazy if they could get Dame, because that would be really beneficial for them. And there's been talks that the Warriors might get him, but I think that would be devastating for the Warriors.
He's a good fit with the Warriors too.
He could be good for if he played like forward, but if he played like point guard, I think that would be.
He definitely wouldn't play point guard.
Yeah, but if he played along like along Draymond, I think that'd be really nice. Obviously, we'll see if they want to do that, but it'll be interesting. It's like we said last week and the weeks before. It will be really interesting what happens with Ben Simmons, because he's a good. I mean, he can do stuff. I mean, he's a good player. You said it, yeah.
My turn. Pull the Skip Bayless there.
Turn. It is my turn.
My turn.
It is my turn.
I disagree with you both pretty soundly. First of all, I think this is a good test to see how good the Sixers front office, their new front office is. This is a good test for them, because I think clearly up until this point, you could just say the front office has been atrocious. I mean, they've missed on picks. They've made terrible trades. Mm-hmm. They've given up players they probably shouldn't have given up. They've given up the wrong players. All across the board, the Sixers have been a joke pretty much recently, even though they may have had some semi-decent teams. Now, as for Brogdon, you said he's 31. Well, Dame is 30, so that's a 1-year difference. The reason I think,
but Dame's the top 10 player in the league.
Yeah.
Okay, but they don't need a top 10 player.
They kind of do if you're trading Ben Simmons away.
Well, no. You do if you think you get that, but your leverage goes out the door when the past year happens, or the past 2 years, and probably the longer they wait, the less likely they are to get a great deal.
Great deal, yeah.
The reason I think this Brogdon trade was a great trade, because you get it, and personally, I could have been like, you know what, hey, we'll talk to you, but we want some more picks, or we want another piece. I said that in our chat. Maybe that wasn't quite enough for Ben Simmons, which I kind of didn't think it was. I think maybe asked for a little more, but here's why Brogdon was a good switcheroo to me. You need the Ben Simmons. We all agree one of his best assets is his defense. Well, Malcolm Brogdon is a pretty good defender. Is a really good defender. So you're getting the defense. Not only are you getting that, but you're getting a dude who shoots 50, 40, 90 pretty much religiously, and that can dish out the ball to Joel Embiid. So you're pretty much addressing every single problem that you've had with Ben Simmons, all of them. Shooting, spreading the floor, defense. I mean, you didn't have defense, but you're like kind of replacing, you're getting a semi-good defender. And I'm not sure they're going to get a better offer than that. That's my thought is,
yeah,
I just don't know. Because if you want to get Dame, I would never say no to Dame. I'm not saying like say no. I'm just saying in terms of age, there's not much difference, and you're not going to get the defense. Personally, I think the Sixers roster with Brogdon would be good enough to win a championship, or very much compete with one. You say no, probably because of the Nets.
I'm just saying Brogdon's not a guy that's gonna take you to championship. I think you need 2 franchise players in today's league. I don't care if you're in the East or West. You need 2. You can't just have him beating a bunch of good role players. It's not gonna be.
I think Brogdon is better than a franchise player. I'm sorry, better than just a role player.
Yeah, but he's not. Well, he's in between. He's not a superstar. I think
he's not a superstar.
Yeah,
what would you say about the Raptors? Did they have 2 superstars outside of Kawhi? It was just Kawhi. They had nobody else.
They had Lowry. Lowry's a superstar. Lowry's a star.
Really? Lowry's a superstar?
He's more of a star than
Malcolm Brogdon's a star. They average the same stats, very comparable. And except defense, Brogdon is way better on defense and a way better shooter.
Has Brogdon ever been an all-star?
I don't think so.
Hasn't Lowry been an all-star?
I'm just saying, Will, do you trust Brogdon to carry the Sixers if Embiid's having a bad shooting night? Do you expect him to like drop a 25 point playoff game?
No. I think that can be addressed in other places on this roster. The Sixers have other pieces.
Yeah.
Seth Curry, in my mind, has really had a coming out party. Now, part of the problem there might be money. Now you might start running into money issues with this roster with some of the players that came out. But ultimately, let me just say this. Ultimately comes down to you guys are coming from a perspective that the Sixers have leverage. I'm coming from a perspective that they don't have leverage because the whole league just saw this happen. I
don't think they do, yeah. But I think they needed a superstar, a second superstar.
But I'm talking about the reality. I'm not talking about like what of course everybody needs a second superstar, would love one. I'm talking about what they can get because everybody's seen the past 2-3 years with Ben Simmons in the playoffs, especially the last year. And everybody saw Doc Rivers and Joel's comments after that game, that series. That makes his trade value go down. He may be 24. He may be a top 10, 15 player in the league. I think he is. I don't think he's a bad player. I've said that. But all of that has made his stock go down. That's just what happens. So I'll let you say whatever you want to say, Mohammed. Then I have a question for you guys.
Look, I understand your point of his stock value, but if I was another team and I looked at him, his age, his potential, if he's a good fit for my team, I'm trading for him. If I have to trade good pieces, then go ahead. But I understand the whole leverage thing. I know some teams might come at the Sixers and be like, oh, why would I trade for him after what he did? I'll give you this guy and this guy. And it might be like a low shot or whatever. But if I was the Warriors or if I was the Blazers, and if Dame said, I need to get out of here, I think Ben Simmons would be a good, piece to trade away, to get back for him. If I was the Warriors and I saw that, hey, we need to compete with these other guys in the West, Ben Simmons would be a good fit just because he could guard guys like Kawhi, PG, LeBron, Devin Booker, those guys. I'm trying to think of other teams, but I think the fit, if the fit is nice, the team will pull the trigger. I think leverage for right now is the biggest piece right now, but I think as time goes on, if the Sixers want to trade for him, then go ahead. If they don't, then they better trust him to fix his shooting. But for right now, I think his shooting, his woes are just those. It's just an easy problem to fix. I don't think the recent playoff performance, I don't think people should make that a big deal because.
Well, but it's not just this playoff performance.
Yeah, it's not.
I know, but I feel like the problem that is solvable. It's a pretty easy fix. It's not. It
should be solvable.
It should be, yeah. So.
It's been 4 years, though.
It's trust, man. It's trust.
So
finally you're gonna do it.
I will say that if Dame asks for a trade, then that changes everything. Because once a player asks for a trade, then your leverage goes down. So the Trailblazers would lose all their leverage.
Yeah.
However, as of right now, I just don't think the Blazers would trade Dame for him. I think more likely it would be CJ. For Ben Simmons. In terms of like talent, unless Dame, of course, says, hey, I want out, then that changes everything. I personally think the best and most realistic location for him is the Warriors. I really think that's a good fit for him.
Respect to Ford,
And the Warriors do have assets to give up. They're not going to have to get, obviously, Steph's off the table. I highly doubt they'll have to give up Klay Thompson.
Wiggins would probably gone.
Wiggins, though, I'm totally cool giving up Wiggins.
But if I was the Sixers, who from the Warriors would I want? Other than the pick.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they're comfortable doing that. That wouldn't make sense. I mean,
maybe it'd be a 3-team trade. We might see a 3-team trade.
Well, here's another thing: is Tobias. I don't know.
I was gonna say Tobias with this big contract. If they trade for Brogdon, they could trade Tobias for maybe, like you said with the Raptors. The Raptors just had Kawhi and then Kyle Lowry, but he was like, wasn't in his prime. So, if they make up a team just like that and just have the centerpiece of Joel Embiid and have Brogdon and whoever they trade for Tobias as like his really good role players, then then I'll say, hey, they might have a shot at going to the finals. But
I mean, yeah, ultimately, it just comes down to what happens with the other superstars. Because right now, the Sixers just can't make these big trades happen until somebody else says they want out.
Right.
Because nobody's gonna. The problem, and like you said, Mohammed, is you have to place trust in Ben Simmons. And I, as a fan, I just don't know if other GMs are gonna be like, you know what, I trust him to do what he says. Yeah. But ultimately, somehow, my gut is saying they're just not gonna trade him. That's just my gut feeling.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Somehow he won't get traded.
You never know, man. People change with change of scenery. Always changes somebody.
Sometimes. It could help him. Yeah. I think he needs an alpha dog around him. I really do. I think he needs somebody to get in his face and be like, "Yo, you gotta get to you can't."
You gotta get in the gym and start shooting.
Yeah, like this is ridiculous. Yeah. Not worrying about the Hawks the next night.
True.
I don't know. I kind of want
plenty of time.
Kind of want him to or get traded. I don't know if I want that, but
be interesting.
I think they should.
The Bulls.
See, I said the Bulls. I think last episode. I think the Bulls would be another perfect fit for both teams because Zach LaVine, I think, is good enough to be with Embiid. I think that's a perfect fit for him. And Ben Simmons is good enough and a perfect fit for the Bulls. So I think that's a doable
trade. Why do you want to get rid of Zach LaVine, though?
I feel like other than maybe, do you think Patrick Williams and Kobe White package for Ben Simmons is a trade they would do? Is that a good trade?
It might be.
They would do, man.
I don't think that's a bad trade. I think that's you have to add some picks.
Yeah, you gotta add some picks too.
You gotta add some picks.
Yeah, I mean, if you had picks, obviously, yeah, sure. Maybe 2 first-round picks and those two guys.
I think you would need another player, like a role player too. I don't think you can just you're gonna get
maybe Danny Green and Ben Simmons for Kobe, Patrick Williams, 2 first-round picks.
Another player on the Bulls and not on the Sixers. I think they need another player on the Bulls too. Just because
really?
Simmons
I think that's enough.
I don't know.
I think that's enough.
See, this is where the leverage.
And I don't think it's tough too because I think he does need to move back to maybe the forward slot, but he can't really do that on the Sixers because that would ruin
Tobias, Danny Green,
and Embiid going to work. And if somebody's crowding the dunker spot in the,
I just think the Sixers are in a win now mode. So if they were going to trade Ben Simmons for somebody, I think it has to be somebody that they're confident enough to say, this guy with Embiid is going to take us to the finals.
For sure, yeah.
So if that's their mindset, then Zach LaVine would have to be that guy. Dame would have to be that guy. I don't know who the Warriors would be that guy. Maybe Paul George would be that guy they did with the Clippers. If they did with the Knicks, I don't know. Just it has to be somebody that they're confident enough to say we can win now with this guy, with him and Embiid. And I think that should be the right mindset. But for right now, if they don't have the leverage to say that, then either got to trust Ben or if they really want to get rid of him, then, do something.
They could just ask Tobias to do more, maybe. Because Tobias Harris can do more.
I think their team right now is good enough to go to the finals. I think it's good enough to beat the Bucks and maybe
I think even with Ben Simmons, it is.
Yes, yeah. I was confident in them, but golly, I mean, when it comes to the playoffs, Tobias is shooting terribly. Ben Simmons doesn't know how to play, and then Embiid's obviously getting hurt every once in a while. So, they all just break down at the end of the season.
Dang, I had a good point. It just slipped my mind out. I don't know.
They had their chance in 2019, man. They should have beat the Raptors with Jimmy.
Yeah.
Tobias was on their team still, right?
And Redick. And Redick.
Redick, Simmons, and Embiid. I mean, that's a loaded team, man. I remember that year. I thought they were going to go into the finals that year for sure. But
they've had so many great teams. Too many to not have some kind of result out of it. At least a finals trip. Like, at least one. Maybe you don't win it, but, come on. Just one.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to say, forget what I was going to say.
And TJ McConnell was decent on the Sixers too, man.
Yeah.
Man, they had a squad, dude. I don't know how.
Yeah, he's playing behind Brogdon right now on the Pacers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny.
ironic.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of so many good players, dude. I mean,
I think they're trading recently. I mean, other than Jimmy Butler thing, that was kind of like a rental trade. But other than that, I felt like they've done a good job with trades in terms of building their roster. I just don't think the roster has lived up to the hype that they should have lived up to.
That's true. It's a good point to end on now.
I wish I could remember what I was going to say.
We are coming up on an hour here, though, gentlemen. So I think it's time to wrap it up. But do we have any predictions for the? I mean, it's going to be hard. So we'll monitor this.
Italy. Let's go.
See what happens with the Bucks and Giannis. But yep.
We'll be at the
appreciate. Yep. We're going to be on the team will be on vacation next week. So we're the doubts. I don't think we're going to get an episode up next week. But after that, we'll be back the next week probably. So looking forward to that.
Finals will be over by then.
Most likely, yeah. But we'll keep you informed on social media as always. YouTube. You're watching on YouTube right now, Spotify or Apple Music, whenever you listen to now. And then follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we always post updates about the NBA and what's going on and highlights. So make sure to follow us on all that. Appreciate all y'all. Tuning into another episode.
Italy's going to get the dub on Tuesday, just so you guys know.
Against who?
Spain, right?
Yeah, Spain. Good job.